Mick Beale's got them playing some brilliant football.
Top six is without a doubt well in reach because they have got some unbelievable players.
Swansea City, are they finally finding their groove under Russell Martin?
They absolutely are. They are flying at the moment, are the Swans. Swansea are one of those sides who I genuinely think can finish in the top six.
If you're playing catch-up now, and we're in October, 12, 13 games in, for most teams anyway, not for Coventry, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be an uphill battle.
One of my favourite players in the division is Harry Souttar. Harry Souttar was the best centre-half in the Championship. Him coming back into the team could be a massive, massive thing for Stoke.
Going with a bit of bias here, going Chris Martin. Now, he had a period at Derby where he was just unplayable.
Best player for me not to get promoted, Ross McCormack. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you're going to say. He got promoted with Villa. I am not counting that.
Didn't.
Ross McCormack is arguably the greatest striker the Championship has ever seen. Hello and welcome to the Stopwatch. It's the topical championship show with a little twist. It's 5 topics, a 2-minute timer, and 2 hosts. We're Ryan and Justin from the Second Tier podcast. Let's get right into it. So, Justin, QPR are flying at the moment, but do you think they're genuine promotion contenders?
It's an interesting question, and I think they could be. And it's sitting around that area at the minute. They could be. If I was to say right now, this second, I would say yes, they are, because Mick Beale's got them playing some brilliant football, and it's working. The 4-2-3-1 is working brilliantly. But the only thing that might let them down as the season progresses is the squad depth in the final third. The attacking options he's got, if the likes of Lyndon Dykes picks up an injury, Chris Willock's obviously picked up an injury, and God forbid if Elias Chair picks up an injury, while Chris Willock's got an injury as well. So they're relying heavily on keeping players fit in the final third. But I think everywhere else they're in good shape. It's just whether or not those match winners can stay fit or not.
Yeah, for me right now, you can't really argue that they're not promotion contenders because of how well they've started and where they are in the table. I struggle to see them being genuine automatic promotion contenders as the season goes on. I think they've got some quality players, and Mick Beale is coming across as a really good young coach. But I just think there are other squads that have got much more squad depth and more all-round quality than QPR, and that will catch up with them in the long run. But top six is without a doubt well in reach because they have got some unbelievable players. And you've got to remember, they were running Bournemouth close for a place for the automatic promotion places last season, weren't they? Before it all went completely wrong in the last 10 games of the season. So they've definitely got a quality side here, and I think they'll be eyeing up the chances of getting in the top 6. If they get there, then we all know what the playoffs is like. More often than not, it's a complete lottery, isn't it? So, yeah, I keep our genuine promotion contenders. I'm not sure they're automatic promotion contenders, though.
No, I think you're quite right. Playoff contenders, definitely, but automatic might be a bit of a stretch. But if they can get to January and add to the squad, then I don't see why not. Because as I say, Chris Willock and Elias Chair, you've got those 2 in the team. Anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, what's next topic?
On a similar line, Swansea City, are they finally finding their groove under Russell Martin?
They absolutely are. They are flying at the moment, are the Swans. They have been playing some beautiful football, as we always know with Swansea, and under Russell Martin, play some beautiful football, but now it's actually getting results as well. The problem earlier in the season was them having a lot of possession, playing some nice football, but not creating chances. Now they're doing that, and it's reaping out some brilliant results. And they're doing this all with the fact that Joel Pirro is not in the best form of his life right now. He has had some good bits of form earlier in the season, but the last few games he hasn't been great. But he's not anything to be seriously worried about at this stage, I don't think. Whatever the case, Swansea are in a handful of sides for me who will count themselves as genuine playoff contenders. There are some who I look at and they'll flirt with the playoffs during the season, but I won't actually think they'll finish in the top 6. Swansea are one of those sides who I genuinely think can finish in the top 6.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I do disagree on Joel Pirro. I do think he is out of form this season. He's missed 7 big chances, for example, which is the most in the league for a forward, playing the amount of games he has. And I just think if Swansea are going to I think even be playoff contenders, then they need Joel Pirro in form and Michael Obafemi firing as well. But that being said, they've got to this position now without those two being in top gear yet, which I think is a concerning thing for the rest of the division, because if those two can find the form that they had in the second half of last season, it was goals, 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 then they can absolutely be promotion contenders via the playoffs.
I mean, Joel Pirro's got 4 goals already this season,
Ooh, 4
Justin, and
goals. Yeah.
it's a decent tally. It's
It's all
not too
right.
bad, is it? And then if he's missed 7 big chances, then at least he's getting in the right position. So I won't be too worried about him at all, I've got to say. This is an interesting one, Justin. Which side are you most confident will be relegated this season?
I'm going to say Coventry, and it very reluctantly saying Coventry, because although I was, we were made to look a bit foolish last season predicting relegation. Might be the same again this season if they were predicted to finish quite highly, and it's not down to Mark Robbins or the team. I think it's down to the lack of preparation for the season, both with the pitch and with recruitment as well. The side now is arguably weaker than it was last season, and they're playing catch up because of the pitch fiasco. They're playing catch up with the rest of the division, and there's so many games they've got to fit in to to get the season going. And as I say, if you're playing catch up now, and we're in October, 12, 13 games in, for most teams anyway, not for Coventry, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be an uphill battle, and I just think it's going to catch up with them at some point. And I don't think they'll add to their squad too much either in January.
Yeah, I was under the impression that Coventry were going to pull away from the bottom of the table after managing to finally get a win on the board. But you look at it, they're 6 points off from safety. I mean, they have got games in hand, but still, it's not like they're, the results are flying in for them. So I can definitely see them hanging around the bottom 3 as the season goes on, unfortunately. Whether they go down or not, I'm not too sure. One side who I'm more confident of going down is Rotherham. Now, Rotherham, I always expected to be in a relegation battle this season anyway, whether Paul Warne stayed or not, just because it's Rotherham. They are a side who haven't got a big budget, have they? They haven't got loads of resources. And for a club like Rotherham to get to the next stage, their recruitment has to be something miraculous. And they've done some decent business over the summer, but it's not anything that makes me sit up in my seat and go, wow, these guys are, got a very good chance of comfortably staying up this season.
Yeah.
I always thought Rotherham would be in or around the relegation zone this season. And it is worth mentioning as well, they've got Matt Taylor, who's a new manager, still getting to grips with things at Rotherham. It hasn't been the most convincing start so far under him. And he's a new manager who hasn't got any experience at this level either. So I think Rotherham will continue to slide down the table as the season goes on. And I'd pencil them in as a relegation spot for now, and that could all change. But right now, I definitely see them as the side most likely to go down in the Championship. Justin, what's next topic?
Which almost forgotten player do you think will have a surprise impact for their team for the remainder of the season? So any player that's been injured or has been a bit part player so far. So yeah, which one will be a surprise coming up?
Or which player's gone on safari, just gone on holiday, anything like that. Just fancied not showing up at this point. The one for me is without a doubt one of my favourite players in the division. It's Harry Souttar. Harry Souttar was the best centre half in the Championship last season, for my money, before he suffered that nasty injury that kept him out for the vast majority of last season and heading into this season as well. Now, he should be back. I say pretty soon. I imagine he'll probably be back after the World Cup at this point, because I haven't seen anything in the way of him being back in training or anything, but I might be wrong on that point. But when he is back, he will be such a phenomenal player for Stoke. You talk about ball playing centre halves. That guy was like a quarterback with his passes out to the flanks and to the wing backs. And it really gave Stoke that extra edge. And I don't think it's any coincidence that after his injury, Stoke pretty much fell apart. So him coming back into the team could be a massive, massive thing for Stoke. Of course, they've been very hit and miss so far this season, more miss than hit. But him coming back into the team could be a major, major positive for them. So, yeah, Harry Souttar for me, definitely the one who could have a surprise impact later on in the season. Justin, who are you saying?
Well, links back to my Coventry City point a moment ago. It's Callum O'Hare. And now he's a player who really does make a difference in that Coventry team, because you can just tell at the moment there's a bit of a disjoint between the attack and the midfield. It's not quite linking together, and they're relying heavily on Victor Gyökeres making magic essentially in that final third, carrying the ball into good positions to get shots off. Whereas Callum O'Hare did that. Callum O'Hare played those nice intricate passes in behind for Gyökeres or Godden. His link-up play was brilliant. His chance creation last season was fantastic. The amount of chances he created and the amount of times he gets fouled as well in and around the area. It's really, really important asset to have for a team who are struggling and also who don't have the biggest squad in the world, because they've got a player who can do it all in that final third, apart from score goals on a regular basis. But this might be the season for him. If he comes back firing, then I don't think Coventry are as certain to be relegated.
Yeah, goal scoring has definitely been a problem with Callum O'Hare for quite some time, hasn't it? Is worth mentioning, there's always the chance that Burnley may come back in for him in January. So whether he's at Coventry for that much longer, who knows? Right, now it's time for second tier retro time. Favorite part of the show for me, as always. This is where we look back on the best/worst of Championship history. And the question is this week, who is the best player to not get promoted from the Championship? Justin Peach.
Going with a bit of bias here, going Chris Martin. Now, he had a period at Derby where he was just unplayable. He's by far one of my favourite forwards that I've ever watched in the Championship, and I got to see him every week. And it's not just the amount of goals he scored. If you consider that he arrived at Derby on a free transfer, scored 20 goals in his first full season, while Derby got to a playoff final, and then hit double figures, got 18 the following season and 15 the season after that. It's quite remarkable. And it's not only that, but it's his link-up play. The amount of assists he got for Derby, it's quite astounding that he never got promoted. Well, he may have got promoted with Norwich, actually, but for this purpose, I don't think he did. But even after his Derby career, he's done very well at Bristol City. He scored double figures in 2 of his 3 seasons. And then he did the same with Fulham while he was on loan there for a season. Came back out of the wilderness after a couple of years of dealing with a debilitating condition, came back and hit double figures again for Derby. He's just a top number 9, and I absolutely love him.
Legendary drinker as well, by all accounts. And I think that's what really matters when you're talking about this kind of thing. Best player for me not to get promoted, Ross McCormack. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you're going to say. He got promoted with Villa. I am not counting that.
Didn't.
Because let's be honest, when Villa got promoted with Ross McCormack in the squad, he was nowhere to be seen. He was as far away from the first team as a player has ever been while still being at a club. But Ross McCormack is arguably the greatest striker the Championship has ever seen. He was phenomenal for Cardiff, Leeds, Fulham. I think I'm right in saying he's the only player who's scored 20 plus goals for 3 different teams. And that's because when it came to scoring goals, he just did it for fun. It was all in his nature. But in terms of, also being able to create chances as well, he was fantastic with his back to goal and dribbling and creating chances for his fellow teammates. He's just a phenomenal player. Really should have been playing Premier League football. Yeah, maybe his attitude let him down a bit. And maybe there was question marks over his weight at numerous points during his career as well. But in terms of pure talent and just intelligence, the bloke was absolutely fantastic. And we'll just ignore what happened at Aston Villa because nobody needs to mention that anymore. Prior to that, an unbelievable player, Justin.
Yeah, he was. He really was. And I've said it before on this show. He was a slightly lower fence from being of great in the Championship, because the amount of goals he scored, I think he's not too far off Billy Sharp. So imagine if he had those 3 years at Villa when he was contracted and he was in a relatively good condition, the amount of goals he would have scored. He would be by far the best striker the Championship has ever seen. Sadly, wasn't to be. Loved him. Great player. Wish we saw more.
Without a doubt. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Stopwatch. Another episode wraps up. We'll be back again next week to give you more of a lowdown on everything that's going on in the second tier, and we are the second tier podcast. You can find us on Twitter at second tier pod. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this. Comment below on any of the questions that we've discussed here, and always leave a like if you've enjoyed. I've been Ryan Dilks from the second tier podcast. That's been Justin Peach from the second tier podcast, and we'll be back again very soon.